Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well. How about you?
Awesome. Yeah, really good.
Excellent. I have been a huge fan of Survivor and of yours. I was just thinking about it today, actually. One of my very first dates with my wife was we've been married for 21 years now, but one of our very first dates was to a watch party for the very first
Wow.
season finale. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That is super cool.
yeah, and it's wild to think that it's been that we've been married that long and that this show has lasted that long. That's amazing.
You're telling me, man. I agree. I think that every time we go to shoot, we all kind of go, how are we still here? Let's go
Right.
kill it again.
So how do you keep killing it? What keeps it fresh for you after 46 seasons, coming up on 47 in the fall? What keeps it fresh for you?
Lots of things. I think the biggest stamp would be coming out of COVID. I
Mhm.
think that was a big refresh. And that turned out, in terms of from a TV production point of view, a blessing for us, because the when we had to postpone due to COVID, that was the first time I've ever had time to think about the show without the pressure of having to produce a season, because our schedule is pretty nonstop. And so there was so much unrest that it just became really clear to me Survivor needs to be a fun family show. And that started this ball rolling of a lot of changes, which now encompass, and make up the new era. But that really refreshed it for me. And I can tell you, I've loved Survivor since I got the job. I wanted the job before I got the job. The minute I heard Mark Burnett talking about it, I wanted this job. But I've never had as much fun as I've been having these last few years. It just every day I'm in a playful mood. The people we're putting on the show are in a playful mood, and we're designing a game that's fun. It's dangerous, but that's what Survivor fun is dangerous fun. But so imagine that's my job. Every day I get to show up and talk to these people and find out what's going on, and then we negotiate on something weird, or we run this challenge and there's a high and there's a low and somebody gets voted out and somebody wins. But inside all of that is this amazing adventure that 18 people are taking.
Yeah. I think one thing that really resonated with me, I took a hiatus from it somewhere in the 30s and came back to it, and I've been rewatching some of this later seasons. Particularly, I've just finished 44 and I'm getting ready to start 45.
Mm, mm,
And the start of, I think it's the start of 44. Forgive me. There was a contestant who hit his head on one of the very first challenges, got a
yeah,
concussion. And then there was all kinds of things that whole episode. I think people forget how dangerous it is. They forget
yeah.
that these contestants are not just putting on a social game; they're putting on a very challenging physical game.
Yeah, it's true. Survivor in the new era, I think, is deceiving, because when you hear 26 days, your initial instinct is, well, that's fewer days than 39, so it must be a little easier. But we spent a lot of time designing this game to be as difficult, if not more difficult, than 39. And it
Right.
starts with no food.
Mm.
So, on top of these big physical challenges, you have no food at all. None, unless you can go catch a fish or the coconuts you can open. But those are minuscule amounts of calories. And then you have to come run these very difficult challenges. We've upped the ante on the challenges because
Mm-hmm.
we wanted you to rely on each other. So you're starting with 6 people. If you've got one person who's not participating, you're in trouble. If they
Right.
don't pull their own weight, you're probably going to lose. And then you have a dilemma. I'm in an alliance with the person who didn't help us. What do I do? They're my number, but I need to get rid of them. So all of those little things have contributed to a game that is incredibly exhausting, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And then you see that on top of it, when you take on one of these physical challenges and you add adrenaline,
Mm-hmm.
that you go a little harder than you probably should have or even needed to, and now
Yeah.
you split your head open.
Yeah, that I think there were three people that were in some sort of difficulty in that episode, and it just really hit home that how much they pushed themselves. I think it was season 44 because he comes back for season
Yep,
45.
you're
I've
right. It
heard.
was. Yep.
So I just it just underscores that for me when you talk about the new era, particularly you know looking at this last season, there were so many people who grew up on Survivor, who watched it with their families from the season one, and they come into this game and they know everything about this
Yeah.
game. They are so primed for what they think their strategy is going to be. How does that make it challenging for you and the team to kind of prepare for all of that, considering in this, there's so many people who are very savvy about the game now?
Well, I think it's a really great adversary for us. It's not adversary, it's an inspiration for us because Survivor shares one thing with poker in that it is a version of human poker. But what's different is our rules are not set. We can throw wild cards into our game anytime we want. So when we started 41, for instance, we knew we were creating a new game and we anticipated there would be some pushback and some confusion and the audience thinking, wow, I don't know if I can track all this. But we also felt like our audience was savvy enough that they'll get it pretty quickly. And then this will become secondhand. And then the idea was, what will the players do with it? So we are just now starting to see players understand the game and the beware advantages and the shot in the dark and the journeys that you take. They're not just there as an adversary to you. They're there as an opportunity. The question is, are you able to step back and examine them in new ways and maybe find a wrinkle that no one's done yet? So I love having great players on who know the game because it pushes us to make the game new again every season, just a little bit. That's the thing, Clarence. You don't have to make a massive twist because they live in uncertainty. All you need to do is put a question mark into the game and you have something.
Yeah. What I loved about this past season is the drama of the hidden immunity idol. It seems like everybody had it and
Yeah.
nobody used it, and
Yeah.
nobody used it. And that it's heartbreaking, but then you're living in paranoia, and then I can imagine they're being paranoid about whether or not they should use it. They want to keep it because they want to keep their game going. They don't think they're going to get voted out, and then all of a sudden they are. And every single time, does it hurt you watching those people give up that thing that they had won and they coveted so much?
No, it doesn't hurt me. And I always say this to the players. When I'm snuffing your torch, my heart does hurt for you a little bit because I know what you sacrificed to get out here. But in terms of the game, if there wasn't a torch snuff, there would be no stakes. That's why you want to play Survivor, is that one mistake can end your game, just one. And so when you think of that, one mistake can end my game, and you're sitting with an idol, what you're thinking is, if I don't have to play it, I don't want to because I might need it tomorrow and I don't want to waste it tonight. Well, every other player knows that. So their job is to convince you, Clarence, you absolutely do not need it tonight. We may need it tomorrow, dude. Do not play it. Meanwhile,
Yep.
he's trying to figure out how to spell your name because he's voting you out tonight. That's the game.
Yep. This last season, a lot of the last seasons have had what we'll call chaotic tribal councils. There's so much. I mean, I remember one episode this past season where I think everybody stood up and they all of a sudden reorchestrated their voting game. I mean, they pause their interactions with you just to sit there and strategize again, real time in front of everybody else. It was like, we're not even pretending at this point. How do you prepare for tribal councils, knowing that, oh my God, these are going to be chaotic? Like everyone this year, it felt like, oh wow, that's the most chaotic tribal council I've ever seen. Wait, hold my beer. Here's the next one.
Well, what I know from an information standpoint is I know who our producers think is going to be voted out. And I put the word think in quotes because we are aware that the players may change their mind. But when they left the beach, the plan was to vote out Bill. And then I also would know who has an idol or an advantage. We don't know if they're going to play it or not, but I just need to know like which players have something that might come into play. After that, Clarence, honestly, my questions, I just sit down and start asking questions. I've never had writers. There's nobody in my ear. I just sit in the pocket and trust that with a group, I can kind of figure out where the pulse is because the good players want me to ask them questions because they know how to use my questions to deliver an answer that will move the game to where they want the game to go. And that might mean that they're sending a signal to an alliance member by a phrase they're saying or reassuring somebody. It might also mean that they are throwing off their alliance member by assuring them that they're still with them. You have no idea what the truth is. But when they get up and start talking, I like it not because it makes great TV. I like it because it reminds me this is how much they care. They know a vote is coming. We might be minutes away from writing names down on parchment, and somebody says, "Hang on, I'm worried it's me." And suddenly they pop up and they start talking. And so that's the sign of a new era player, is that I am not going down without a fight if I sense anything is wrong. And then the last part of that, that then leads every player to having to be great at lying, because I can't let you sense anything's wrong, because you could play a shot in the dark or you could change the vote to me.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing people don't realize is that you're all when you're playing this game. I think you're always playing this game. You're never not playing this game. You're
Never
always
not.
on, even when you think it's a safe space for tribal council. Exactly what you say. You're giving visual, verbal cues to other people. You're playing for the jury if you make it that far.
You're
I
right.
mean, you're constant. You're constantly playing that game over 29 days. It's incredibly stressful.
And back to what we talked about earlier, you're trying to maintain this persona that you want to project without any food, very
Yep.
little sleep, absolutely no trust, and this threat that you're the one that's being lied to. And tonight, you're the one going home. The audience has the advantage. They know more information. So they might know that a player is not in trouble at all,
Mhm.
but the player doesn't know it. And that's the mania that hits them, is they're constantly second guessing everything. So
Yep.
to be a good player on Survivor does require the ability to, in crisis, take a
Yeah.
deep breath without anybody noticing you're taking a deep breath, and find that way to not panic, but get your game back to where you need it to be. And that's just a constant 24/7 for 26 days.
In tribal council, you almost take on the role of it's almost like you're a counselor. You're exploring, you know, of course you're exploring the game, but you're also exploring how comfortable they are. You're exploring, are they relating? Are they hanging on, and just in terms of the stress of the game.
Yeah, I like that part of my job.
Mhm.
I really do. And I if I sense that if I sense that a season is heading somewhere, or maybe a period of 2 or 3 days, there seems to be something happening, I will go consult with either our psychologist, and I'll say, I'm
Mhm.
sensing this group think is happening, and I'm trying to get at the bottom of what we think it might be, just so that I'm kind of taking the journey with them, so that I can try to imagine where they are right now. And then I start to understand why they're probably going to vote this person out. And what that person doesn't realize is the collective unconscious has decided it's you, and you just haven't read the room, and you're dead. You're dead in the game. There's nothing you can do because you're not picking up on it. Other times you see momentum shifting, and it's a completely different experience. But I think no matter what show I ended up on, there would be a touch of this, because it's what interests me. Is the thing I have always liked about Survivor is human behavior and how we justify our ethics, and you see that on display on Survivor every day.
Absolutely. And you are exceptionally good at that aspect of it, at
No, thank
making
you.
this a human experience. It's not just a game, right? It is there is human interactions to explore, and you're exceptionally good at that.
Well, I appreciate that, because more than anything, that's what drives, in terms of me, that's what drives my creative ideas, is that
Right.
the game is the lure to get you there, and the experience is the prize that you take away. But you have to play the game in order to get the experience. And once it's over, you won't remember so much about the game, but you will remember how it changed you.
You mentioned, obviously there's a lack of food. These people are under duress in terms of the lack of nourishment, the lack of sleep. When you get to a moment like, and this is probably my personal favorite moment of the season, Liz's outburst about
Mm,
Applebee's.
right.
Um, When you get to that moment, number one, you must realize as you're living it in real time, oh, that's gonna be viral. That people are gonna think about that. You must have that sense after
Yeah,
this many years.
sure. Yeah, you do, of course. I mean, you're human. I know that when
Yeah.
Survivor fans see Liz have a breakdown, there will be some people that are moved by it and can
Mhm.
appreciate that she's really struggling. And there will be other people who are never going to take on Survivor, who just sit back and sort of laugh at her or judge her.
Yeah.
We try to prepare the players for that,
Mhm.
that no matter how well you think you played or how cool you think you looked, somebody will take objection to that. But it's this might sound weird, Clarence, but I care deeply about the player's mental health and physical well-being. I mean deeply. It's prominent all day.
Yeah.
And I think because I know that's what drives me and our medical team and our psych team and all of our producers, it allows me to be out of the game and to just be a witness to it. I'm just watching. Liz is having a breakdown. It's completely uncomfortable to watch. It's
Mhm.
painful for her to go through. This is what you wanted. Something about this experience called you, and you're out here now. If she were in serious trouble, we'd switch gears very fast. She wasn't. She finished and she said, okay, I just had to get that over with. I'm done. We've all
Yeah.
been there. We've all
Yeah.
yelled at our kids and we didn't want to or whatever. So I think it's a good balance. At least that's how I justify it to myself, is that we have a really good balance because I know that we take care of our players, I think, in ways that no other show even comes close to in terms of aftercare. And that's what allows those moments to live and breathe and to remind the audience, as you said earlier, about the realness of it,
Mhm.
that this is a very difficult journey to take.
Are you ever you must still continue to be surprised by moments like that. I mean, you don't see things coming at that point. I mean, you know these people very
All the
well, but
time.
that you're taken aback by it for sure.
Surprised all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I I, I mean, half the time I with Q, for instance, I
Mhm.
spent hours talking to Q. And I knew he was electric and fun, very smart, very successful. He told us going in, people are going to misjudge me. They're going to see me and think that I was an athlete. So that's what I'm going to lean into. Never anticipated some of the things Q said and did that cracked me up and were really clever. The one that comes to mind is they had a few hours of downtime and he said, let's play hide and seek. And then he says in an interview, I can't believe what people just revealed to me. Some people actually tried to not be found. Well, that tells me everything about how hard you're playing. I thought
Mhm.
that was a brilliant idea that we've never seen before, and from somebody that you would have never expected to come up with that. Q was a
Right.
really great, clever, complicated player.
I bet. So, last question for you. As you are, I know that you've already even started planning as to what 51 will look like. What does the future Survivor look like for you? Where does it go from here on out?
It's a good question and one that I don't even know if I can answer.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
I you'd like to have some roadmap, but I can tell you honestly, what I have always said since I've been showrunner anyway, I've said we got to get through 26 before we get to 27, and then
Right.
we have to produce a great 28 before we get to 29. Everybody's talking about 50. We have to edit 47, then edit
Right.
48, then we have to shoot 49, then we shoot 50. So 51, yeah, I have some esoteric ideas, but they're based on what I'm anticipating could happen in 50, but we
Right.
haven't done 50 yet. So, it's there's not a master plan. And any Survivor fan knows I've certainly made as many mistakes in terms of ideas for the
Right.
game as I have gotten it right. So I just keep hanging on to follow your gut. As long as I'm sort of show running, I'm going to follow my gut, take the show where I think it should go. Doesn't mean I think it's the right place. It's just where somebody's got to lead it. So I'll lead it. And then our whole team will go make it. And then the fans will tell us, yeah, we liked it, or Probst, that really sucked.
Well, Can't wait to see. I'm super excited about 47. Thank you so much for the time here today. Congratulations on another Emmy nominations.
Thank
It's
you.
so well deserved.
Well,
You
thanks.
really
Thanks
make
for
the
the nice
show.
words. All right. I
Thank you.
appreciate talking to you.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.